Help me reach my goal and subscribe. And hit the bell icon.
Chapter 69:21. Merchants have basically never been associated with heroes since ancient times. Bill Gates was once the world's richest man for many years. He spent so much money. In the early years, he established a persona for himself that changed the world with technology. But he was unable to prevent the collapse of his persona in his later years. In fact, there is no wealth in this world that comes out of thin air. Any super-rich man is like the Queen ant in the ant kingdom. Behind his huge body, there must be countless worker ants that supply him with blood. In other words, any existence that exceeds the normal size needs to draw energy from countless things of normal size. Why can a top star like Tawana earn billions of dollars a year? That's because she has tens of millions of fans who support her with money from their own pockets. So that is why she can make so much money. Why can Bill Gates be the world's richest man for many consecutive years? That's because Windows, Office, and various popular software developed by Microsoft have sold hundreds of millions of copies around the world. Every computer user in the world is providing growth momentum for Bill Gates' bank account through various channels. It is rare for a rich man, who is supported by hundreds of millions of people, not to be despised by another 100 million people. It is basically a pipe dream to want hundreds of millions of people to respect him, or even regard him as a hero. But today, Bertnard is definitely a hero in France. A national hero. Charles de Gaulle Airport can be said to be full of gongs and drums, firecrackers, and crowds of people. Countless media and platforms are broadcasting the dynamics of the airport in real time. When Bertnard's private plane appeared in the sky in front of the airport runway, the people were boiling. The plane slowly descended and landed steadily on the runway. A yellow guide car flashed eye-catching lights and guided the plane all the way to the parking position that had been prepared long ago. Bertnard looked at the shocking scene outside the window. While he was overjoyed, he couldn't help but be nervous. He even began to wonder whether he should step with his left foot or his right foot first when the plane door opened. The plane gradually came to a stop. The airport staff had already laid the red carpet under the plane. After the private plane's door was opened and the steps were folded out, Bertnard, supported by his wife, appeared at the door with great excitement. The crowd that had been waiting for a long time burst into cheers. The shutter sounds of the cameras were faster than machine guns. And they kept clicking. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Bertnard limped down the steps. The injured knee was faintly bleeding. Bertnard deliberately asked the medical team to do this in order to show his heroism. What triggered his inspiration was the picture of the American president, who was shot in the ear during the election some time ago, and then gave a speech with his ear wrapped. There is an old saying in China that the crying child gets the milk. If you are injured, you must always think about exposing your injury to the public. Only in this way can you gain the public's support to the greatest extent. At this time, the French Prime Minister smiled and stepped forward, took the initiative to extend his hand and shook it, praising him. Mr. Arnault, you are the pride of France and the pride of the French people. On behalf of the French government and the French people, I thank you for everything you have done on White Horse. Bertnard was overjoyed. He knew very well what the characteristics of his French compatriots were. It was no problem to make money from the French people. But it was difficult to get their respect. He had been criticized by the French people for years because of the continuous price increases and the forced distribution system. Now he has transformed himself into a national hero. This wonderful encounter is perfect. So Bernard said very modestly. Mr. Prime Minister, you are too kind. These are what I should do. Chapter 69:22. The Prime Minister smiled and said, His Excellency the President is waiting to meet you at the Élysée Palace. We will take a group photo in front of the reporters later. After the photo, the reporters may have a brief interview with you. If you are interested, you can simply answer questions. If you are not interested, it doesn't matter. You can wait until after the meeting with the President to be interviewed at the Élysée Palace. Bernard rolled his eyes and asked in a low voice. Excuse me, Prime Minister, are the media outlets such as the Associated Press, United Press International, and CNN here? They are here. The Prime Minister nodded and smiled. With their keenness for news, how could they not come? Okay, that's great. Bernard nodded with a smile and said, In that case, I will be interviewed by them later. Okay. After the Prime Minister and Bernard shook hands cordially in front of the media camera. The two came to the media reporters together. The Prime Minister smiled and said to the media reporters present, Mr. Bernard will go to the Élysée Palace later to accept the summons of His Excellency the President. But I just communicated with Mr. Bernard and confirmed that I can leave 10 minutes for the media reporters on the scene for a brief interview. If you have any questions for Mr. Bernard, you can raise your hands. All the reporters raised their hands high at this time. They are keen journalists themselves. They naturally don't want to miss such an interview opportunity. The AFP reporter looked at Bernard with a face full of confidence. She felt that Bernard, as a new generation of national hero, would definitely choose to accept an interview with local media at this time. As the largest and oldest media in France, AFP must take the lead and take over this first wave of traffic. But what she didn't expect was that Bernard didn't plan to give him a chance at all, but directly aimed his eyes at the CNN reporter. He pointed at the CNN reporter and said, Come on, let the CNN reporter ask questions first. The other reporter looked depressed and puzzled. She didn't know that Bernard was ready to fight at this moment. From this moment on, he would start working. The CNN reporter didn't expect that the first person to be called to ask questions would be herself. She said happily, Dear Mr. Bernard Elno, I would like to ask if you think this attack was secretly instigated by some people with ulterior motives. Instigation? Bernard Elno asked in confusion. What do you mean by instigation? The CNN reporter quickly said. As far as I know, the terrorists who attacked Whitehorse Island claim to be mercenaries of Blackwater. But I think Blackwater is a regular mercenary company. They will definitely not be involved in terrorist attacks. So I think this may be a frame-up to deliberately provoke relations between the past. What do you think? Bernard sneered and asked him. Where were you when the incident happened? The other party explained. I am a CNN reporter stationed in Paris. I was here when the incident happened. Bernard said contemptuously, You were in Paris when the incident happened. But I was on Whitehorse Island, right in front of the guns of these Blackwater terrorists. Now you tell me that you think this may be a frame-up. How can you be all-knowing? Your name is Sherlock Holmes. Chapter 69:23. Bernard's sudden attack embarrassed the reporter. The reporter's original intention was to help Blackwater gain some public opinion. by raising a possible suspicion that it was framed. Although not many people might believe it. As long as he raised the question, it was equivalent to diverting the opponent's firepower. But he didn't expect that Bernard would directly refute him in front of so many media reporters. And it was also a bit humiliating. He could only bite the bullet and say, "Mr. Bernard, I'm not Sherlock Holmes. I'm just proposing a hypothesis. And then asking for your opinion and views based on my hypothesis. It doesn't matter if you disagree with my hypothesis. I just hope you don't have any misunderstandings." Bernard sneered, "Misunderstanding? Do you think I don't know what's going on in your heads? You know that what happened on Whitehorse Island had a very bad impact. So you're trying to do everything you can to exonerate the company, right?" The reporter said, embarrassedly. "You really misunderstood what I meant. I'm not trying to exonerate Blackwater. I just want to express my personal opinion." Bernard sneered with disdain on his face. "It's really interesting. You, a reporter, came here, ostensibly wanting to interview me, but actually wanting to express your views and convey your private goods to the audience all over the world through the interview. Don't you think that by doing this, you're violating the professional ethics that a reporter should have?" The cameras of the surrounding media were all aimed at this reporter, making him nervous and ashamed at the same time. He could only say with an apologetic look, "I'm sorry, Mr. Arnaud. Maybe there was something wrong with my expression just now. I take back my question." Bernard nodded and said with a righteous face, "I believe that this matter will soon be revealed and give everyone a satisfactory explanation. I also solemnly warn certain people and certain groups here that if anyone attempts to tamper with the truth of the incident, then I will do my best to investigate everything and expose it all." Many reporters did not expect that this luxury giant would be so righteous. And they all spontaneously applauded. You know, his image in the international arena has never been very good. Although consumers are flocking to their products, they are disgusted with this person. But today, the brilliance of humanity that burst out from this person is awe-inspiring. And he has just saved hundreds of tourists from all over the world, including the famous Tawana suite, so everyone has a deeper respect for him. Not only do these media reporters on the scene look at him with admiration, but the audience in front of the screen is also full of respect for him. At this time, Bernard looked at other reporters. "Do you have any questions?" A group of reporters raised their hands high. But strangely, reporters from several other media outlets put their hands down. In fact, the instructions they received were the same as those of the previous reporters, which was to find a way to excuse Blackwater during the question and answer session, or to divert the audience's thinking and their imaginary goals. But seeing that this old man didn't give any face, no one dared to make things worse at this time. So they simply didn't ask questions. Bernard didn't intend to let go of these reporters who had suddenly become low-key. He laughed at himself and said, "It seems that I, an old man, am too direct in my words. And I am not very popular with some of the reporter friends. I was a little tougher on the issue of Blackwater. And you are too lazy to even ask questions." There was laughter all around. And these reporters looked at each other in shame. Bernard then looked at the AFP reporter and said with a smile, "Next, please ask the AFP reporter to ask questions." The AFP reporter immediately smiled and asked, Mr. Arno, I heard that you will rush to the United Nations headquarters in the United States tomorrow. And you will also donate to its counter-terrorism office. Is that true? It's true. Bernard nodded slightly and said, "The incident on Whitehorse makes me personally feel fortunate and angry. Fortunately, I had the opportunity and the ability to resolve the crisis. What's angrier is that this kind of crisis may be happening anytime and anywhere in the world. Others may not have the luck I had when they encounter such a thing. So I hope to do my best to provide them with some help. And I also hope to set an example for other individuals with better economic conditions. I hope they can also pay attention to the issue of opposing terrorist attacks and do their part in this matter." Chapter 69-24. Bernard's impassioned speech really affected everyone around him and in front of the screen. If other rich people said this, people might think he was acting, self-promoting, or setting up a perfect persona. But Bernard was different. He actually solved an extremely serious terrorist attack. And it happened that before the attack, the whole world paid attention to Whitehorse Island through Tawana live broadcast. In addition, the matter was successfully resolved later. And Tawana personally endorsed Bernard on the live broadcast. This influence was too great. Moreover, in front of the public, Bernard did not just pay the terrorists. He was also bravely shot, and it was obvious that he had experienced the danger of losing his life at any time. With so many factors added up, who would still think he was acting? At this moment, his reputation reached a new peak. At this time, Charlie was leisurely watching the live broadcast on his mobile phone from a recliner. It must be said that this old man's acting skills are really great. His righteous appearance, coupled with his vicissitudes of white hair and resolute expression, his affinity and appeal are all top-notch. Moreover, although this old man is not young, his fighting power is really fierce. He chased and bit the reporters as soon as he got off the plane. Blackwater, at this moment, what they want most is to kill Bernard. But he is the one they cannot kill the most. Because the influence of this incident is too great. If he dies, everyone will blame Blackwater. Moreover, Bernard is not some unknown, anonymous person. This guy was once the richest man in the world. If anyone assassinates him, France and the European Union will definitely not give up for the sake of their own image. And the whole world will pay close attention to ask for an explanation. For a time, everyone in the top management of Blackwater was in danger, wondering what kind of storm Bernard would cause at the United Nations when he arrived there tomorrow. On the way to the presidential palace, Bernard's face was filled with excitement. Today, he has found a special sense of honor that he has never had before. In the past, his sense of honor came from his own achievements. How much money he made and how many places he ranked in the world were the key to his sense of honor. But sometimes others may not really respond positively to this sense of honor. Just like the famous Chinese husband who was a second-generation rich before. He always regarded it as the greatest honor that no one was richer than him. But this sense of honor would only make ordinary people reject him. But it would not make ordinary people identify with him. And Bernard's sense of honor this time was exactly given to him by the people of the world. People admired him and sincerely thought he was a great hero. This was the first time in his life experience. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel infinite gratitude towards Charlie. In the past, whenever he thought of this young man who cheated him of his money, he would be so angry that he gritted his teeth. But now, when he thought of Charlie, he felt extremely kind and wanted to make a sworn brother with him. If he could be like Hamid and call him brother, how great would that be? From now on, he will call him Brother Wade. And he will call him Brother Arno. He will soon accumulate 50 billion experience points and exchange them for a rejuvenation pill. By then, he will have a good reputation, a large industry, and a long life. Living one more day will be a top life. At this time, the Élysée Palace in France was much more crowded than the airport. The president turned down all his original work this afternoon just to meet with the hero that the country has seen in decades. The last Frenchman who received widespread positive attention from the world was Charles de Gaulle, who swore to die in the face of Germany. Moreover, Charles de Gaulle was a man of integrity. But Bertnard was different. He encountered such a big thing and solved it. More importantly, this matter was watched by the whole world from beginning to end. It was simply the best stage tailored for him. There are lucky people in countries around the world who have encountered sky-breaking traffic. But most of the traffic they received was only on their own country's network. No one has ever received sky-breaking traffic on a global scale like Bertnard. It can be imagined that for a long time to come, Bertnard will be an idol of people all over the world. And even every terrorist attack in the future, someone will think of his heroic deeds this time. Therefore, the president also attaches great importance to him and wants to seize this opportunity to help him establish his personality and image again. And at the same time, let France take this opportunity to be proud of it on the international stage. The state guest motorcade stopped at the main entrance of the Élysée Palace. With the support of his wife, Bertnard stepped into the magnificent Élysée Palace. The president, who was supposed to wait for him to come forward, immediately took the initiative and walked towards him quickly. After a few steps forward, he shook Bertnard's hand tightly and exclaimed, "Welcome home, Mr. Arno. You are the hero we all admire." Chapter 69-25. Bertnard and the president were old acquaintances. After all, even if Arno fell from his position as the world's richest man, he was still the richest man in France and Europe. Therefore, his influence in this small part of Europe was no less than anyone else's. In the past, he would not have been interested in a meeting with the president. But today was a day of honor and glory for his family. So he was extremely excited. He shook hands with the president and said humbly, "Your Excellency, I am grateful for your compliment. I simply did what I was supposed to do." The president shook his head and said with deep emotion, "Today, all of France is proud of you. Later, on behalf of the whole nation, I will present you with the Grand Cross of the Legion of Honor." The Grand Cross of the Legion of Honor is France's highest honor. Generally speaking, in peacetime, it is only awarded to those who have won the highest honors for their country, such as world champions in major sporting events. For a businessman like Bertnard, being awarded such a high-ranking honor is extremely rare. He had never received one in all his years. In reality, a single medal is worthless to the French government. But they strictly limit its number to ensure its value. If it becomes too common, its value will be greatly diminished. And its appeal will also be greatly reduced for those who haven't received it. Bertnard was delighted. Upon his return, he was met at the airport by the Prime Minister and the President. And he was also about to be awarded the highest honor. The ceremony was a grand occasion. After a brief exchange of pleasantries before the cameras, the two began the formal awarding ceremony. The ceremony followed a set routine, witnessed by many high-ranking French officials and guards, and broadcast live by the media. Under the gaze of people and half the world, the silver-haired Bertnard received the exquisite Grand Cross of the Legion of Honor. When the president placed the medal on his chest, the entire Élysée palace erupted in applause. This elderly man prided himself on being a shrewd businessman, unfazed by empty fame and fortune. But today, he truly realized that it wasn't that he disliked fame and fortune, but he had never been able to reach such heights before. His eyes were slightly red, and it seemed that an impassioned patriotic sentiment was also rising in his chest. Charlie saw Bertnard's excitement and joy through the live broadcast, and he also saw the French people's admiration for him from the barrage of comments flying all over the sky. So, he suddenly had an idea and thought, why not give him some sweet things to taste? Immediately, he took out his phone and sent a WeChat message to Tawana, who was also on the island. A few minutes later, Bertnard, who had just received the presidential medal, was standing straight and being photographed by the media with the president. Suddenly, a staff member nearby walked up to the president and whispered something excitedly in his ear. The president's eyes lit up after hearing this, and he lowered his voice and asked, "Is this true?" "Yes." The other party replied, "I've verified it with Tawana Sweets Company. And it's indeed Ms. Sweet's decision. If we are all okay with it, Ms. Sweet can make the official announcement on her personal social media platforms anytime." Great. Absolutely fantastic. The president was overwhelmed with excitement, immediately announcing to the media present, "Everyone, we just received news that the renowned singer Ms. Tawana Sweet has decided to hold 5 solo concerts in France after her vacation to thank Mr. Bertnard Arnault. All proceeds will be donated to French charities." The reporters on the scene gasped in amazement. Tawana Sweet's concerts have long been a golden key to boosting the local tourism economy. It can be said that wherever she chooses to hold a concert, the local tourism industry receives a significant boost. Money isn't the most important thing. The global popularity of a country and a city is instantly boosted, and the subsequent long-tail effect is the greater source of benefits. What's more, this time, Tawana wasn't performing for a commercial, but for a charity concert. All proceeds would go to charities in her country, and the box office revenue from the 5 concerts would be at least €100 million. Besides all the financial benefits, France would also be greatly bolstered by the fact that a star as big as Tawana Sweet would take the initiative to perform for a benefit concert, something that had never happened even in America. The reporters were astonished, their cameras trained on the elderly Bertnard Arnault. Everyone knew that Tawana was holding 5 charity concerts to repay Bertnard Arnault for saving her life. Bertnard Arnault was also bewildered. His first thought was, that doesn't make sense. It was Charlie who saved Tawana, not me. She must have known.